Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. It's Gord, your hurtin' hippie, and welcome to not only a viewer appreciation and answer session, but also a Patreon supporter appreciation day. It's a shout out day. It's a day to say, hey, it's because of you I'm here. It's because of you I stay here. It's because of you I'll be here tomorrow. Friends, I'd also like you to comment below on things you'd like to see on this channel. I know a lot of you want more strain reviews, and you've gotten them lately. I think a lot of you want more live shows, and you're getting them lately. I'm doing what I'm being requested of. So, pitter patter, let's get at her. It's time for answers to all those questions, but first, I do want to say a huge shout out. If it weren't for the support I get financially for this channel wouldn't have gotten to where it has gotten. So, in no particular order, my Patreon supporters, Jon Johnson and your family, Eddie, Hennig, Grateful RVlife, Tommy, Clifford Burchfield, thank you. Clifford just doubled his contribution to my channel through Patreon. Even though I lost a few people, he's given me a little bit more. Big shout out for that. That is beautiful. Seth and Nolan, part of the Johnson family, thank you guys. Really appreciate Cannadis finest, one of the higher paying ones, and thank you. You mean a lot to me. Of course, all of you do. Brandon, Boechler, or Boechler, I will always say that wrong. Had a friend, same spelling, Boechler, so I'll say Boechler. Brandon, thank you. You comment only once in a while, but when you do, they are wonderful and insightful, and I thank you. As sun and moon shine, you two rock. You two rock. Thank you for all your support. And through other methods of support, there is also Angie 978 and Jackie veolettina. I always call it veolettina. I wonder if you had that problem growing up. Anyways, that's my shout out to all of you. I want to thank you. There are so many more to shout out because your comments, your suggestions, your thoughts for improvement, all these things go a long way. So if you want to contribute, there is Patreon. I do have PayPal. There are ways to do it, or just mail a donation to the post office box below. I will get it. I will put it towards the camera that I'm trying to get to improve this channel. Friends, it's now time for Q&A, and stick around because we will still do and we will still do little known facts. I'm going to start right at the first question asked and move to the last. And the first one was not really a question, it was a statement. Glenn Kennedy, I know you had a bad day. One request on this channel, all caps, no politics. I certainly have kept politics to a minimum, and cheers to that, because the political world has gone crazy, and I think we should all walk away from political thought. I don't think it's helping any of us. Once in a while, some of you, Glenn, ask for my particular take on something, and most of the time I'll say no. Sometimes if it's important, I'll say yes. Next is, and sorry, I'm reading my laptop right here. Angie 978, are there any specific foods that you avoid because you have noticed that eating them leads to increased fibro pain symptoms? Absolutely. It seems to me anything corn related, corn tortillas, popcorn really bad, those kind of things really affect my IBS. if I don't get enough vegetables, or if I eat too much carbohydrates. If I carb load, trouble. Chocolates tend to hurt my restless leg syndrome at night. I'm trying to think of what else I avoid. I do not avoid coffee. I love my coffee. I try to avoid it a bit at night. Hurts my insomnia. So I hope that helps, Angie. Angie Activated asked if my chocolate bar last night and the sugar dairy in it may have contributed to migraine. Food for thought. And very definitely, I'm glad that came right after Angie's, because yes, there's another thing that chocolate seems to contribute to is migraine. However, you know, it seems chocolate has caffeine, and caffeine helps with the migraine. Funny, funny, funny world we live in. And Ange, you asked, what is my rose and thorn regarding fibromyalgia that you've experienced or learned in the last year? Well, I would say the thorn is be very cognizant of how the effect of fibro, be it fibrofog or your pain, if you're in a really low cycle, if you're really in a lot of fog or a lot of pain, be cognizant of the way you're affecting those people you love. In this past year, I have allowed my down cycle to be a detriment towards the children that I love so dearly. So I need to be more careful. We need to be more careful. It's hard to manage a brain that isn't working right, yet say to yourself, am I treating people well anyway? Very important to look inside. And what's my rose? What's my rose? I mean, the good and the bad. So what's the good about fibro? That's a really hard one. I mean, I can say there are good because of being sick from fibro and being understood that fibro is a valid thing. I am at home on disability and therefore spend a lot more time with Pasha. Very hard to find a positive about fibro, except when it clears. Except when it clears. But it was good trying to find that rose, my friend, and I learned that the rose and thorn is the good and the bad. And Jonathan Taylor says, he goes on about the woke culture, but he asks, my question would be to ask your audience what they consider civil discourse is to them. Because we were talking about being woke and what is civil discourse? What is acceptable in society? Because, you see, when I grew up, it was sticks and stones will break their bones, names will never hurt them, try to be nice to people. But if people aren't nice to you, it's only words, let it go. Civil discourse was not people telling you what's right or wrong. It was you being raised appropriately to understand what's right and wrong. And you never say anything that might hurt somebody else unless there is good enough underpinning of importance that that fact go forward. I think in today's world, facts have become muddled. If you want to say the sky is green, you can type it in the internet and you can find someone and some kind of study that will back you that the sky is green. So facts have lost their meaning. I don't know if that answered you, Jonathan, but also other people below can comment on what they feel is civil discourse in today's society. I think it's still okay to call somebody on what they have said if it's wrong, but to call it with all due respect. And Logya, shout out to you, buddy. Always there for me. You had no questions, and that's okay. Alvin, buddy, play us a hippie tune. Really, seriously, you don't want to ever hear me singing, and a hippie tune, I play a bit, but my hands just don't let me. I know that there are ways that I can maybe relieve that, and I will look into that. I will. Thanks, Alvin. And now we have Sikhs with a few questions. Favorite strains and why? My favorite strain is Granddaddy Purple. Stay tuned. In a week, I'm going to go visit my plant, my Granddaddy Purple that I've shared with you for half a year. It is getting cut down next week, and I'm going to go visit it before it falls and do a video on the visit, and then it gets trimmed, and then we'll do a review. But anything in the purple area, this Huckleberry Soda Purple from Canada's Finest, absolutely incredible. This Purple Ice was absolutely one of my favorites, and pinks will fit in that category. Favorite bands growing up? He asks me a lot, so I'm going to answer them one at a time. Favorite bands growing up is a really simple one: Led Zeppelin, Supertramp, Pink Floyd, Alan Parsons Project, Frank Zappa, CCR, the Mamas and the Papas. I think we could leave it about there. Views on current state of government in Canada, if I dare. Well, and how do I feel about the rest of Canada separating? Here's where I show my age. Parts of Canada have been separating from Canada since Canada became Canada. In fact, we began separated with Upper and Lower Canada before we started dividing into provinces. So, I think you can understand that my first thought on separation is it just ain't never going to happen. It is ridiculous. You don't separate on... We actually studied this. Memory. I love memory when it can work. We studied this in university. An organizational theory class. It was a very difficult class. I came out on the top, but we studied all this Western Canada separation, Quebec separation, and for those who don't know, Quebec, our French-speaking province, is a very unique province who has even tried to separate from Canada 3 or 4 times throughout their lives. But when it really came down to it, it was a bunch of powerful people trying to get the populace to agree. The populace has never agreed. The majority of the quiet people are happy with Canada. And it's the same thing going on now. Alberta and BC are mad at the federal government in the east because there's more people in the east. So more of the politics, politicking, the money, all that gets spent in the east and done in the east. And they ignore the west. Alberta has always had major oil reserves and big money, and whenever the rest of Canada is doing bad, the federal government sucks it out of Alberta. So I understand the feeling of separation. However, first of all, it would never happen. But what we studied in university was if separation would or should happen, it should be done on a industry-specific method. Countries should be divided around what can they do and provide. Get the Western provinces with the Western states, Washington, maybe even Idaho, and BC and Alberta, and you have a very strong paper products, lumber products, oil, technology, beef, and agriculture. Everything right there. But if we just separate just Alberta, BC, we don't have what it needs to be a country on our own. And how does it really make sense? We would still need to be a part of Canada. So, no, I don't agree with that. Favorite movies? Probably the movie I've seen the most, The Holy Grail. Absolutely one of my favorites. And who's the most influential person aside from family in my life? My most influential person, I would say, was a man named Al Soper, who looked after me while I was at CP Rail. He was the director. He always took me under his wing. He knew that get Gordy to do it, it'll work right. I owe my career to that man understanding my abilities. Wow, you asked a lot, Sikhs. What advice would you give for young men trying to build a family or foundation in a world filled with political intolerance? And again, just like I say with the cyclical nature of let's separate, the cyclical nature of, oh my God, this world is so political. Should we even bring family into it? I would always say a child is the most important addition to this world. We can buy things, we can get things, we can create things, but once we've created a child, we've created a future. We have ensured our future. We haven't ensured what the future will be like, but without them, there isn't one. We do not live forever. If we do not pass on with some of our children, we do not continue. So, yes, I get the old, I'm not going to have kids because this world is so full of crap. Well, you wait until it's not full of crap, you'll never have kids, and if you want a world that isn't full of crap, it's the only world we have. And the only benefit we have is continuing to have new generations that will think differently. Will they make mistakes? I believe the millennials have really hurt us. And it isn't their fault. It's the way they were raised, that generation that was told, here's a participation trophy. We should not give first place to anybody because who cares about first place as long as you're all together. It was such a warm and huggy, and I understand why they did it, but so many people were left behind, and now they're grown-up adults and they're in the world and they're going, what do I do? Bosses are not like teachers were. I'm not getting coddled anymore. The world is harder than I was told. We need to raise our kids to be prepared to be on their own and hold their own, boy or girl. And I think that's got you done, Sikhs, and boy, oh boy, we're getting near the end. Do migraines take you out before you can even get out of bed? Are they present when you wake up, or do they come on without any warning? My migraines, Canada's finest, Trev, that's a really good question. My migraines are all over the place. Sometimes they happen. I go to bed feeling absolutely great, and about 2 or 3 in the morning, just boom, you feel it, and it's bad. And sometimes when that happens, if I can get ahead of it, I'll take an Advil, a really strong extra strength Advil, and get over it. But they come any time of the day. It's I have never found a migraine. You know, it's been tough. And last one, Angie activated. Angie activated asked about my cold showers. I am on day 5. I am enjoying them. My head is clearer than it ever has been. And I have the showers to thank for that. I think my fibro even seems to be a little bit less because of it. It's too early to tell, but it's working really well. And friends, now you know what time it is. Yeah, time for little known facts about chocolate. We have some interesting, interesting ones. The average chocolate bar contains insect fragments. The US FDA says anything more than 60 insect pieces per 100 grams of chocolate is rejected. First of all, how do they count 60 in a chocolate bar? How do they know that there's 61 and throw it away, or 58? Oh, it's okay. And another fact about Belgium chocolates, 1 in every 200 workers, or around 17,000 people in Belgium, work in the production and promotion of chocolate. One more. 1 chocolate chip gives an adult enough food energy to walk 150 feet. Around 35 chocolate chips is enough for a mile, and 875,000 chips will take you around the world. Peace and cheers. Love and harmony. Peace.